What's up, everybody? It is Dr. Goons, Jobbers and Goons channel here, and we have another podcast episode where we kind of get an inside look on the comics by talking to authors, writers, artists, and all alike. And today I got two with me, actually, first time talking to two at the same time. One is at this point, kind of consistent visitor on the channel. We got my boy Josh, the genius behind the current Blue Beetle run, if you want to say what's up.
Hey, thanks for having me back, guys. Always fun.
And then we have my boy Andrew. Just got to meet him. He is an artist, does a lot of his own work, as well as he just collabed with Josh on a DC project, which we will be talking about a lot today. If you want to say what's up.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Really honored to be here.
And guys, before we continue, make sure in the comment section, I'm going to pin Andrew's channel. He just did a video on Bunker. Go check him out, show support, let him know we love what he's doing. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into this sit down. So, first topic I was thinking of is a pretty simple one, and it kind of piggybacks off what you guys just did. And I kind of want to hear both your perspectives on it, and that is building Bunker, because for the viewers at home, this is a character that hasn't gotten much shine in terms of the public light. Character very prominent in the Titans run back in New 52, and we don't get to see that much of these days. However, we got it in the Christmas special. And I just kind of want to hear from both you guys. What's it like plugging in with a character that doesn't have as much behind them that you, not free reign, but you have a lot of reign on working with?
Yeah, with Bunker, he's one of those characters that kind of exists for me on vibes. Does that make sense? He's like,
for sure.
Once I saw the character and the costume and the power set, I was like, there's a lot of untapped potential here. Which is not to say that there aren't some good Bunker stories already, but I saw like a greater destiny for Bunker. I was like, this guy's so cool. I think I've said it before, but he has like Fortnite powers, right? He creates these energy bricks.
Essentially, that's exactly what it is.
And I was like, this guy needs to be the biggest thing in the DC universe. Why is no one using him right now? And so I was kind of like pounding at the drum for my editor, Michael McAllister, for a while. I was like, we've got to make Bunker happen. Like, there's a big opportunity here. And, it's nice because you have a lot of free reign. Whereas if you're writing for someone like Nightwing, right? There have been Nightwing comics since like the 1930s. So there's a lot to catch up on and a lot you got to keep straight with the continuity, but this is an opportunity to kind of build something from the ground up, and I think it's so cool. And Andrew really went wild with the designs and kind of leveling up Bunker to the next phase of his career.
Yeah, I would have been happy just drawing Bunker with the original costume because it was such a really cool, strong design from Brett Booth. But like when Josh brought up the prospect of doing like a redesign, I got so excited because I'd never done that with an established character before, and Bunker is a young character who's already had like 3 or 4 costumes prior to this, so it was really nice to be able to like extrapolate from all of that, find what the common motifs were, and just kind of bring it to the 21st century, bring to the modern day, and see how we could set him up for a bigger role, more of a solo role rather than just being a team player.
Yeah, I think we spend a lot of time at DC, and this happens in Marvel too. Is like you want to keep using the same group of characters that have been around for like 80 years, right? Like there's always going to be a Batman story to tell, but like I think the best thing we can do is like create something new, right? Like make a smaller character maybe a little more prominent and give them a chance to shine. And that's always been kind of my MO. Like even in my Blue Beetle, you see me digging up a lot of old characters.
Oh, we talk about it all the time. Yeah. No, I love catching your little Easter eggs.
Oh, it's like the most fun thing in the world to do, honestly, is like getting up the old issues and the who's who and like who hasn't been used lately. Like there's so much untapped potential and creativity there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things about working with DC is they have just a rich history to pull from, and so many little things you could sneak in. And yeah, it's just fun throwing a lot of little bits and details of the comics that we love in there in the background, and to be part of this big tapestry that's made by many hands.
Yeah, I think it was pretty interesting too, because when I had reintroduced myself to comics, it was when New 52 had just begun. And so I read a ton of Bunker early on because he was being pushed hard in the early Teen Titans. But the New 52 era I did a collab with my buddy Lumos recently, just talking about how I think New 52 was wrongly labeled. A lot of those stories were actually damn good. They're damn good stories. And Titans was one of them, as was introducing someone like Bunker, who at that point, you're just seeing the vibrant color. You're not really sure the extent of his powers as a reader, because he's clearly new to them. He's new to the scene as well. And you guys had essentially this, if for those that haven't read the comic yet, by the way, go to your local comic shop, get the Blue Beetle run, get all their projects, but everything. Make sure you all show support. When you guys had a story among many, and in this instance, you kind of have like a one shot with Bunker. So, what was y'all's main goal with Bunker in a one shot? Like, were you trying to build the potential for a solo run? Were you trying to express as much in a compressed story as possible? What was like the aim there?
Yeah, I don't want to. We have big hopes for Bunker, but the big thing was to tell a good story with them. I don't think, and Andrew did a lot of. I did my Bunker homework like a couple years ago, so I kind of forgot. But Bunker is rarely at the center of the story. He's always a team player, right? There haven't been a lot of Bunker-centric storylines, and so what does a solo story look like for Bunker? And also, like, how can we set him up for future success, right? Like, I don't want to close any doors on a character where I think there's a lot of potential there. And Andrew can kind of speak to what we wanted to do in terms of like his style, his design. We wanted to make him feel fresh.
Yeah, we when the prospect of doing that story with Bunker came up, I started looking at like a lot of fashion and a lot of particularly Japanese fashion and Mexican fashion, and just trying to find like fusions for how we could bring it forward, because like Josh mentioned, Bunker has a vibe, and his visuals haven't always 100% expressed his full vibe, as his stories have, as his dialogue has. So I wanted to somehow, bring that forward. And so the big lightning eureka moment was the idea that, what if his costume was just made out of his bricks? Because, he'd always had this wonderful fine control over creating these psionic bricks that he could like shape into giant fists and stuff. And I'm like, well, he doesn't need spandex then, because he can just, make something.
I mean, logically.
Yeah. And that was great, because it meant that what that unlocked was the idea that, Miguel could walk around in casual clothes, in all sorts of casual clothes, and then just bunker up whenever he was in need. And that for me was like, it was great, because, one of the things, I was so happy because Josh structured the story in such a way that we could see Miguel like in sort of a casual look, and then in a sort of half powered up look, and then building up towards the climax of the story where he goes into full armored version. And one of the things I wanted actually was to show him with wearing more clothes, because like looking at his character's history, he always had different looks. He seemed to like clothes and changing up how he looked. He's one of the characters with like a bit of a faux hawk / quiff, and so like he pays attention to this stuff. So I just think there's so much fun to be had in his visuals, as a superhero, but also like just as a regular teenage guy, thinking of like a Gen Zer today and what they would wear and how they would be a superhero, right?
Yeah, it's interesting too, because like Bunker was created like the mid 2000s, I want to say, and like
Yeah, later in
that would have made
2000s.
him like a millennial, right? And now he'd be like a Gen Z or even further than that, right? So it's like the definition of what makes a character like young and fresh has changed so much, and like we just wanted to keep it updated.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it was a vibrant story too. Like the whole scene was matched for what you're going for with someone like Bunker, and kind of segues into something I've talked to Josh at length about, and I'm glad to bring it up again. Palmyra City is back and strikes again in terms of being a major happening point in DC. This was, in my opinion, something that was hinting at a potential, hey, Bunker might frequent this city. If you could, and this is kind of one of those questions where we can just be collective nerds, we can have some fun with it. Given this is a city building up in lore and getting a lot more shine in the current DC landscape, what would be like your dream team out of Palmyra? If you just had a few characters that frequent the city and you just have them in the mix, what's that? I'd love to have them on the team.
Oh gosh, I don't want to. If you're reading Blue Beetle, so in issue 5 we kind of introduce a bit of a team, right? Like we've got our Blue Beetle, we've got Dynastus, our Yellow Beetle, Natitha, our Green Beetle, but we've got other characters like Starfire, Fade Away, Gimmicks is a character I brought back from the dead. I'm so happy, my first resurrection as a comic writer. It's my badge of honor. So it's stuff like that. But like I like finding the odds and ends of the universe and like who doesn't have a home, right? Because it feels like every character has like their defining city, but that's not true. There are a lot of characters that kind of like slip through the cracks, especially like young heroes who don't get a chance to like get their own books. We don't really know what their personal lives are like. Having Bunker in Palmyra actually came from our editor, Michael McAllister. He suggested that, and I think it was a really smart move because Bunker and Jaime are kind of similar, but just different enough. And we can talk about that later, but yeah, because Bunker is originally from Mexico, and that's very interesting because there aren't a lot of there are Mexican-American heroes, but there aren't really any Mexican heroes.
Yeah.
And so, but there's that cultural crossover, I think, between Palmyra City and Mexico and Latin America that's very natural. So I think he's a good fit for there. Who else would I want to see there? Andrew, you're like me. You always dig up the obscure ones too, like Airwave or like, you know what I mean? Like just kind of like some randos would be fun for it.
Bring back the Section 8 squad with I remember the fat guy's name that was just nasty. That was like his power. He smelled so bad. But the Defeminator or whatever would throw people through a window he carried. Dog Welder, all them. That was a wild group.
We were just talking online or off the recording. Andrew and I were just talking about the old Seven Soldiers characters that Grant Morrison created and then killed off in issue 0.
Oh, good.
I was like, I can't resurrect them all. I already resurrected Gimmicks, but I'd love to do some new versions of.
What do you think of? Speaking of Grant's work, what would you think of like Animal Man and other more obscure heroes being brought in the mix in something like Palmyra City? Palmyra has so much potential. Cool idea. Yeah, it has.
I'd love Maxine. Maxine, his daughter. For sure. Like that would be cool if she'd come in and I think Lemire and Doug Mankey did a recent Swamp Thing mini for the like DC Black Label, and they had Maxine as like Animal Woman at the end of that, and she was so cool. And I just think like if we could have like her like in her current age, because she's what, like 8 right now, or like Damian Wayne's age.
Yeah, I think she's probably around there.
Yeah, that'd be super cool if like she could team up. And I don't know if like anyone noticed this, but Victoria Cord is actually in the background of that Bunker story we did for Twas the Night Before Christmas. She's just sort of like part of the big crowd that looks on. I stuck her in as a little Easter egg.
Fuck, I don't think I caught Victoria in the crowd. I wasn't expecting it. I don't know if I have to go back and look now.
Yeah, it's a great Easter egg.
Yeah, you don't need to like you don't need to see her.
I know which
to, like,
scene
for the
you're
story to
talking about from the story. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I just don't remember if I specifically saw her. I gotta get. Yeah, that's a good Easter egg. That's a fire.
That was
Easter
all.
egg.
That was all Andrew. That was his masterstroke. I saw the pages and I was like, wait, something's up here.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
a brilliant.
she's got
tie.
her she's got like a Beetle phone up, like she was just looking at it at readings or something like that, and then like a couple of panels later, she leaves with the crowd, and she's got a hand up, like whatever, whatever this was, it's not worth my time. I'm busy with like all the big awesome stuff Victoria Card is always busy with.
And to and this will tie into our next topic, but I'm gonna bring it up. I actually, and before my subscribers say I'm just biased, which is valid, kind of. It's always kind of valid. But I'm someone that one of my favorite characters ever is Lucas Trent, Midnighter. And I've read every appearance since his initial start all the way up to now, including technically this comic as well. And he's someone that at least when he fully got integrated into DC, the God Garden situation, that's pretty much gone. He doesn't really have a home anymore. And I think he'd be perfect in Palmera City, especially with his tech background. He's a vibrant, and like he is technically a darker character because he'll definitely mess you up if you get in his way, but he's also fun. Like, he's very sarcastic. I'll never forget when Nightwing was undercover. He was like, "Oh shit, it's Nightwing." And he was like, "Dude, I'm undercover." And he was like, "I know, but I could like recognize that ass anywhere." I was like, "Dude, you can't just do it like that on a mission." And I just think a character like that would fit perfect in that landscape. And we did see him in this issue. So I'm kind of curious, like, would y'all be down to work with a Midnighter type character, him and Apollo?
Yeah, I did a Midnight. As you know, I did a Midnighter Apollo for DC Pride, but I'd love to pick up those characters again. I know you love Midnighter more than you like Apollo. I think
I'm very vocal about this.
Yeah,
Apollo makes me mad sometimes.
They're funny because they're funny in a funny place in the DC universe, right? Because they're like so edgy and like, their original run, they're like ready to like kill you at a moment's notice, and like you can't play by those rules anymore when you're on Earth Prime. So finding a way for them to fit in would be interesting. It's kind of like how Peacemaker was in the original Jaime Reyes run, and he was definitely like a hard edge.
If y'all have
like
read
a hard edge character,
yeah, for his old stuff is wild. The stuff he said in his original runs was great. Like, you can't say it now. That shit was pretty crazy. That's yeah. Go ahead.
Like I absolutely loved the Akko and Steve Orlando Midnighter miniseries back in 2015.
It's amazing. I'm actually bringing them on tomorrow to talk about it, as well as it's like Scarlet Witch work. Steve,
but that was so great because that's where I think that's where Extraño got his big glow up.
Yeah,
and became revamped, and we have Extraño in the story too. So it's just kind of nice because it feels like they belong in the same world, because they've gone through all that stuff together. So yeah, I love that. One of the things I was just thanking Josh for was that last page of this Bunker story, which felt like a huge celebration. And I'm just relishing the fact that I got to draw all these awesome DC characters all in the same page.
You had a ton of characters in here. I was like, oh man, we might see Midnighter again. Because I have told Josh before, I was like, look, I know you worked with him. I kind of want to see him, but I can always do with a good Midnighter story. And I think the potential of the city kind of opens the door for that. Because, like I said, he does his own thing. Stormwatch is here and there in DC in terms of like actually working together. He's done a ton of his own independent work already. I could just, in terms of like being a scene as a character, it makes sense for him to be comfortable in. I think him and Apollo would love Palmera City. Like, it made sense.
That's a really fun combo too. I'd love to see them interact with like Blue Beetle, for example, or even especially Bunker. Bunker's like such a happy-go-lucky character. Like, to put him with kind of like these edgelord characters, like, there's going to be some fun interactions there.
It would be wild. And like, in the ways Batman pisses off Blue Beetle, like when he had to get in his face and be like, "Look, bro, you're really tripping right now." Midnighter doesn't do that. Midnighter's just gonna help you kill someone, or he was gonna go do it himself. He's not gonna bother you or be in your face. It'd be hilarious to see them try to like interact with that because he is kind of their. He definitely is their senior, but he doesn't act like a senior. He's a bad influence.
Plus, since they recently were part of that Superman and the Authority thing, the Action Comics run, where they overthrew our world, like it'd be a
World
nice
Saga was
vacation.
amazing. I had Philip on not too long ago, and I was telling him it was amazing to see Midnighter get integrated into that, and see a Mongol get his shine. He doesn't usually get the respect he deserves as a character, so I could definitely, in terms of I'll kind of add that to number 3. In terms of our topics, like, could we see any big Palmyra City villains soon? In terms, like, we know what we have now from the Blue Beetle run, but in terms of like a general sense, like if you could bring a big threat, a team buster to Palmyra, who would you like to drop the bomb with?
Doomsday is the one I think about a lot. I think Doomsday is like King of Hell right now or something crazy that.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah, so I don't want to take him out of hell just yet, but Ted Kord, Blue Beetle, has some beef with Doomsday way back from the Death of Superman run.
It was a beautiful reference in, I think it was issue 4. It was either 3 or 4 when he was in the lab, and he was. I love when Ted like talks his shit, because Ted's usually like a funny guy, but he's valid. Like, he has the rep. He's done the work. Even Batman respects what he's capable of. And the Blood Beetle's walking him down in the lab, and he's like, "Lady, I've gone against Doomsday. Like, I've seen a lot of shit. You're not just gonna bully me." And she walked through it anyway, but that's a different story. But the point was that throwback to Doomsday. Because, I mean, if you run into Doomsday, you're going to remember. If I survived Doomsday, I'd tell you about it every day. Like, dude, look, guess what I survived? Like,
So Doomsday and maybe Bane. Bane's one I think about a lot, too. So either of those. I think Bane is, like, the classic, like, was it Nightfall Bane? Like, the plotter, right? The master planner, the guy who's, like, gets through, like, sheer willpower, like, that's the Bane I love, is like, he is stronger than you, but that's not how he's going to break you, right? He's going to like find your weakness and like keep poking at it until you break.
That would be, with the landscape of Palmyra being how a lot of opportunities there financially with all the tech, that's a dream for someone that likes to make his money like him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're injecting a lot of new villains into Palmyra, especially coming up in the next arc. But man, I would love to get my hands on Bane or Doomsday when he's not taking over hell. It's such a funny thing to say out loud.
He was a menace in hell. That's like the perfect place for him. It made sense too, unfortunately, for everyone in hell.
Yeah, what do you think, Andrew? Do you have like any favorite villains that aren't being used right now?
Oh my god. So one of the things I begged Josh for when we were like talking about the story was if I could please draw a giant monster, and he paid it off in dividends with Chipactyl, the giant crocodile character, which is based on mythology. So I want more giant monsters. Like, I would love the Shazam Monster Society to like run rampant and rampage in Palmyra City. That would be so cool, with like all different, the cloud monster and like, giant alligators and giant robots, and Palmyra, because of all the tech, I wonder how they deal with the kaiju invasion, right? That'd be super cool.
Imagine if Grodd and his boys decide to just pull up. That's a nice city. Let's get the gorillas involved. I
just realized my answer. My answer is like the most 90s kid answer, right? Bane and Doomsday.
Yeah, no, you definitely like fulfilled an agenda.
When did you grow up, Josh? Well, you said Bane and Doomsday, so it's probably going to be the 90s.
I could see Brainiac being a menace in Palmyra City, just as like the tech capital right now. I could see him tearing it up. I mean, it's such a fun city. Like I said, it's one of the newer cities we get to celebrate in DC in terms of getting consistent updates and lore. Because I mean, when you check the as someone who frequents the comics, there's like 9 ongoing Batman stories, so I know what the hell's happening in Gotham. Kind of trying to check in everywhere else, you know, and like getting that chance with Palmera is so fun. And it kind of tying into Bunker. This is something that happened in his fight with the Dark Titans and basically protecting the idea of what could happen in the city. He had to take on a version of the Titans that got corrupted and went bad. We never really get an opportunity to see Bunker let loose, as he's still both somewhat a rookie and just doesn't appear as much. How much, and I'm interested in hearing both your takes on this. How did you approach that aspect of Bunker, like showing off the power, showing off the potential?
So, Josh, go.
No, I'll let you. No, I'll let you lead with this. You did it so beautifully visually.
Well, you know, so the original script that Josh sent over had like a bunch of cool notes about armoring up, and he had this moment where, inspired by seeing Bumblebee, like an evil version of Bumblebee, he like tosses out these tiny bricks, you know, which is like at the size that he'd never done before, and I just thought, wow, that's so cool. We can just get so creative with it. So, you know, it was just really like a visual, it was like a big visual opportunity to just show how malleable and fluid the brick control could be, and all the things he could make up. So I thought it was super cool that, you know, I got that moment. Like Josh set it up, and I was able to just draw all these like cool moments where he not just like all the bricks coming together to like form his armor like voxels, but also like a super version of his trademark giant fist. Or I don't know if people notice this, but there's like a moment in towards the climax where his costume balloons up to like almost like a juggernaut level conglomeration of like brick armor, and then it explodes out into like giant waves of bricks that trap all the other Titans, almost like they were trapped in the source wall or something. So it was just so great. Like honestly, I love the way the character has been set up to be so visually appealing, and I think it's just so fun to draw him, and I can't wait to see like other artists draw him, hopefully, and show off what he can do with his powers, because there's so much you could do with that.
Yeah, I think his powers are really like, they're so interesting. They're kind of like a Green Lantern, but they have their own distinctive style to it, right? You know, because he's got these like psychokinetic bricks is what I'm calling them, but they like stick around. They're not just like constructs, right? He can like he can leave a brick there as long as he wills it, I think. Yeah. At least that's how we're using it. So it's like I just love the idea of pairing him up against the Titans, who right now are like the premier superhero team, and him like proving that he's like on the same level as they are was really important for the story.
Yeah, I mean, he's, again, when you deal with stuff like psionic powers, especially in DC and Marvel, the potential is limitless because of how high that stuff matters in terms of power. And we know, like, and we've talked about this, Bunker is someone who doesn't have as many appearances as others. And if you guys were, say, like, tasked with approaching a solo run or building up a solo run, what do you think's the most important thing about Bunker to first address?
Oh, gosh, we just talked about this literally for like an hour and a half before this call. So exactly. It's definitely something we're dreaming about. Nothing confirmed or anything, so don't get too excited. But you know, I think the big thing is finding his place in the big DC universe, right? Like, is he a street level hero? Is he like a magic hero teaming up with Extraño all the time? Is he a cosmic hero? Like, where does he fit in? And so I think that's really important to set the stage for that. A lot of the these Dawn of DC books have been really successful in finding characters that like kind of feel a little wayward. Like you've got your Hawk Girl or Cyborg or even the Doom Patrol, and kind of setting them up for future success over the course of those minis. And so I'd love to set up Bunker's new status quo so that he can be, next time he's in a team book, you're going to feel it. He's not just going to be like an afterthought.
Yeah, I just I love the idea of him being a Teen Titan and having that, be a core part of his character, but it not being his defining attribute as a superhero. I love the idea that a Teen Titan can have been part of the team and then go off on their own adventures and do all these, cool, crazy things and help people outside of that team structure. And just find himself in the world, because honestly, my favorite thing about him is how relatable he is. His character arc, a lot of it has been about finding himself, finding his place. It's really literally a coming of age story, and Bunker's still going through that, which I think a lot of people can relate to. You're always trying to find yourself and find your new place in the world, and this thing isn't always static. We move from place to place, we meet new people, our friend groups can change, and I like seeing Bunker just enter a new phase and find a new place, like Josh said.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, especially because he is a character who's, I'd call him malleable at this point. Like you can take him several different ways, and it would make sense or be okay, because it's not like you're working against decades of lore on him. And I kind of want to ask, Bunker, let's just say it happens, Bunker and Blue Beetle, let's just say they teamed up or had a buddy cop situation. How do you guys think those characters would work as a tandem?
I think they'd get along. I think the challenge for Bunker, because Bunker and Blue Beetle, they both are way more powerful than they let on, and they've got these big hearts, and they both come from a pretty well-adjusted background. I think finding what's different about them, where their personalities clash a little bit, or what separates them from one another, I think that's the challenge to tell that story, because it's not interesting unless there's a little bit of friction there, right? Or they're so different that that's an unusual pairing. These two feel like they'd be naturally BFFs, and that's cool too.
Yeah, I like the I think what I love about both characters is they both feel very much like improv type characters. They fight the way Jackie Chan fights, which is I'm just gonna grab a
That's
chair.
actually a pretty good comparison.
You know what I mean? I'll grab a chair. Oh, now I'm gonna use the railings on the window, and whatever's in hand, I'll figure it out. And because they're both improv or jazz musicians or whatever, it would be so cool to see them team up, because I wondered if they'd come up with some sort of fastball special or weird cool combos of both their powers. I feel like it would just occur to them as they were going through an adventure together, and we'd see just something awesome come out of it.
Yeah, I think they'd have a lot of potential too in the city. Also being characters that a lot of stuff is thrown at them. They don't really get themselves in bad situations. So it'd be funny seeing them deal with what pops up and adjusting to the fact that both of them are capable of being independent heroes. They're strong enough to do so. They make an impact. So they're going to be dealing with some pretty crazy stuff. I don't know. I think there's some potential in that tandem. And for our final fun question, we can go back to being nerds again. If you two could take any obscure character? Josh had tweeted something similar to this.
I did right before this. Yeah.
Yeah. If you could take an obscure character and just run with it, have the time of your life with a run, what's your character you're rolling with?
Gosh, I'll let Andrew go first, because I need to think of it. I was spoiled. I was beating the drum for Bunker for 2 years before I got to tell a Bunker story, so he was my guy. I got to figure out who the next one is.
I don't know. Oh my god, there's just so many, right? I like the there's a bunch of JSA characters Ma Hunkel and the Mighty Atom. There's a bunch of cool characters from the David Goyer, Jeff Johns run that I think would be super cool to like modernize and bring forward. And like, you know, there's all sorts of like the Batman of Many Nations. Like those people excite me. I feel like they all have a lot of implied stories that we've never seen in person, and we've seen like a Knight and Squire series, but what does an El Guacho series look like? Well, versus El Sombrero, like that mastermind who specializes in death traps, you know, or even some of the Charlton characters, not just Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
Like, freaking The Question.
We
you know what I
we
mean?
never get to see The Question. That would be.
We're so overdue for a Question relaunch for anyone. Anyone would. I'll read it no matter who's involved.
Right? And Nightshade, like. Yeah, I feel like nobody cares about her. I feel so bad for her. You know what I mean? I feel like she could use a glow up.
Nightshade's a good answer. I don't know. When I think of obscure, you know, I got really into DC in like again the early 2000s. So like all those Infinite Crisis characters, a lot of them haven't been used in a long time. I'd love to see more of like Scandal and Knockout would be really cool. I think those are some characters that don't get enough time. They'd be great. You know, I like Airwave's power set a lot, but I think that costume is so hokey.
yeah. I'd love to redesign that one. Oh, the Super Young team. Does anyone remember that?
Super Young team. That was so funny because Grant Morrison knew that no one was going to use them again, and that's kind of like the meta text of the story in Final Crisis.
He wrote them out at the end of Final Crisis, but like I just feel like that's such a cool group of like kids, you know.
If I could see an obscure character get a run, or I'd come in and write it because I'm an expert on them. Whether you think it's a good or a bad thing, you can let me know. But DC had this team, and they were from like the Hitman comics, and it was Section 8, and they were all just losers. Like Six Pack was a drunk whose like power was he was really disgusting, so you just don't want to be around him. Jean de Baton was just like his power was he was super French. He'd throw like baguettes at you. Defenestrator would carry around like a window, and he would throw people through it. And they even like pulled up on Lobo one time and tried all this stuff. And you'd see them trying to throw Lobo through a window, and like they're welding a dog to his ass. It's a wild group. Like if we got that in modern time, I think it'd be like funnier and better than like even a Suicide Squad, because while Suicide Squad is quirky and fun, this is a whole nother level of like ridiculous. Oh man, if we got that back, it'd be crazy.
You know, I have a pretty good angle on Crazy Quilt. I've had this Crazy Quilt idea for like 5 years, and it's gonna happen someday. I just have to find the right hero for it, but to fight. Crazy Quilt would be so cool. Or you know, Crimson Fox from the JLI. I always thought she had the coolest gimmick, where there's like they're twins and they're both Crimson Fox, but you can't prove which one is which, and so like there's like these master thieves in France.
Did she fight like Green Lantern or whatever?
I don't know if she fought Green Lantern. She was in the Justice League International for a minute. Justice League Europe, I guess it was. But you know who I like from the Batman Inc. Night Runner. That's their name?
Runner.
Yeah.
Night Runner was cool. When we did the DC Round Robin to get the Blue Beetle book made, which we lost, by the way. So thank you for the fans for keeping the excitement up and got us a real run. But we were up against Night Runner in like the early round, and I was like, man, I kind of want Night Runner to win because I really want to read a Night Runner book.
I get it. Like that would be pretty interesting. I mean, of course, if we can count him as obscure Midnighter, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, let's bring back more Stormhawk characters. Now that they have all the Wildstorm characters, right?
I know he's not obscure, but I could go for a Kilowog story. Because every time we see him, they put him against the big dogs, and we know he's not going to win. Even though that's our guy.
Yeah.
Like, all right, Kilowog with the
He's that guy. What's that? There's a term for that in wrestling,
he's a jobber.
right?
That's part of my channel. Yeah, Jobbers and Goons. I cover the Jobbers and
Kilowog's such a jobber. It's not fair for him.
Yeah, he's a really bad jobber. He's actually a very good instance of a jobber. He was just in a recent story. As soon as he was fighting the big dog, I was like, all right, I know what's going to happen, unfortunately. He's like the Nightcrawler of Marvel. Like, Nightcrawler is the exact same. I don't even want to get into it. Silver Surfer, Nightcrawler, all them pro jobbers. But the I think just DC has such a vast history of characters because they've kind of found the ones that work now and the ones that they keep in rotation, but they have so many options to draw upon for even like someone like Catman from Batman's lore, who had like 9 lives and he was just a jerk. And that'd be great. Like, I'd read that story. Yeah, I mean the obscure. Some of these obscures do get brought up in like roundtables. It's pretty interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Who else would be good? I don't know. There's all sorts of like Batman villains that always need their time in the sun, right? Like I got to do a little ventriloquist story, or a story that has ventriloquist in it, I should say. I'd love to like give me that 6-issue ventriloquist story. I'm ready.
I'd be fired. That's one of my favorite Batman villains. We usually get the same 3 or 4 for Batman, but some of the like I actually loved the Orphan storyline from back in the day. Midnighter was involved in that one. That was an hilarious run. Court of Owls, there's just a lot that you can call upon because Talon was used for a bit and he's not really used anymore. A lot of obscures, especially in the time of infinite multiverses, they've expanded the cosmology. A lot more things are possible. Definitely interested to see more from you guys. If you do get some of these obscure characters, that'd be amazing in the future. It'd be great to reference. But I want to thank you guys so much for coming on and chopping it up about Bunker and DC Comics and comics in general. Again, guys, go check out all their works. I will have Andrew's channel pinned in the comments so you guys can go check it out. Tell him we support, give him a subscription as well. And we're definitely looking forward to y'all's next projects. Do you know what your next project is for each one? Or
I'll go first. Blue Beetles Monthly for DC for as long as you guys will have us. And beyond that, what can I talk about? I'm doing a Rick and Morty miniseries called Rick and Morty Kingdom Balls. We're doing Rick and Morty meets Kingdom Hearts. That's the elevator pitch of it.
I just read Rick and Morty and Cthulhu. So
it's insane. So I'm very excited about this one.
That's great. That's crazy. Oh wow, I might have to title that the video. Rick and Morty versus Kingdom Hearts, because that'll get people arguing already. Kingdom Hearts has a great niche fan base.
And for me, I'm working on the 2nd issue of my creator-owned series, Secret Heart Attack, which is like part autobio, like almost like a procedural cartoonist's autobio, and like it's also another part like Superhero Crisis, where it's a whole universe of new characters who are going through this whole giant apocalyptic crisis. And it's only 3 issues. I'm working on the 2nd issue now. The 1st issue is already out, and I'm having a blast with it. Yeah, check it out. It's out there.
Oh, that's amazing. I might have to cover it on the channel. But definitely check out everything they have, guys. And again, thank you so much for coming on the channel and hanging out with us. And we'll see y'all later. Peace.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, guys.